All right. So thank you for joining us for today's training with Success Coach Luke. And for today's training, we're going to be diving into a little bit more on marketing and more importantly, how to understand how to attack your marketing based on where you're currently at in your business and why it's important to have a good understanding of where you're currently at to make sure that you are setting your marketing up in the best way that's going to work for you. So, and before I forget, actually, too, make sure you guys stick around to the end because I'm going to be giving you access to a great resource that's going to be able to tell you where you're currently at if you're not aware, and also point you in the right direction of how you can start moving forward from where you currently are. So, make sure you stick around to the end so you can get access to that. Luke, thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet. My pleasure.
So, let's get started with first, like maybe hitting like why is it important to make sure that you're choosing a marketing strategy that makes sense for where you are currently at.
Yeah. Um, well, first, I mean, it's got to make sense for you based on the resources you have at your disposal. So, a lot of business owners who are in the earlier stages of their business development don't have an expansive budget to devote to marketing, and they might just be a solopreneur, right? They might only just have them a small amount of time on their calendar to devote to marketing, and that's totally fine. You got a lot of options. And the more advanced business owners likely have more resources available to devote to marketing in all respects. They probably got more team members to share the load, a bigger budget to devote to different marketing efforts, and a lot bigger, bigger chunk of time to devote to those things. So it's got to make sense based on where you're at, and obviously the goals will be different, likely at different stages of development as well. So as long as it's a match, then you can meet the goals that you're working towards.
Okay, so then, in other words, you would recommend, you would never suggest someone to try to mimic an approach of, say, someone that is further along than them.
No, I mean it's going to set you up for failure, because it's not making sense based on where you're at. Don't do something just because you see somebody else doing it. Do something because it's going to make sense for where you're at and the goals that you are working towards specifically.
Okay, so now it's like kind of like focus on like what does that progression look like. So you gave us like some insights into like, okay, like obviously, yeah, if you're just starting out, you may not have the budget or the time or the team. So what does starting out marketing look like, and then how does it progress as you move along in business?
Sure. I think no matter what stage of development business owners are at, it's really important to um, get really clear about a few different things before you even go towards putting a marketing plan in place. So you got to be clear about what your core offer is, got to be clear about your ideal client, and some sense of your local market positioning. So what makes you different from all the other fitness shows in town? Who are you serving? What are you best at delivering? And how do you deliver that? And then you can speak powerfully about what you offer, who you're for, who you're not for, and what makes you the best choice in town. And once you're grounded in all that stuff, then you can worry about really getting out there and getting to work to generate new leads. So in the early stages of development, you can really shoot for the lowest hanging fruit in terms of marketing to generate new leads and new sales. And often that's through referral programs like Bring a Friend has been really popular and successful for a lot of my coaching partners. Um, a lot of business owners forget that they've worked with a lot of people in the past, and those are really good people to reach back out to run a reactivation campaign and with the goal of getting them re-engaged, and just work the network that you've got. Business owners are so often consumed by just the day-to-day stuff in their business that they kind of assume that other people know that they're looking for people, they're looking for leads, they're looking for new clients. Other people are just as busy and just as consumed and preoccupied with their own lives, so they need to know that that's what you're up for, that that's what you're out to get, and then enroll them in supporting you and building your business.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, lowest hanging fruit. Like we always seem to like sometimes overlook the obvious,
Right.
and the easiest path, and it's like we're always so. I always get the sense that a lot of people think that like if it's not somebody brand new cold that they brought into their business, like it almost doesn't count.
Right.
And it very much counts.
100%. Yeah.
So as like part of what you were saying too in the beginning is like the early stages is also about figuring out your messaging and like getting that dialed in so you can take it out to a bigger audience.
Mhm.
So essentially, like say if somebody is earlier on in their business and they do have maybe access to a little bit more capital than what you would normally have access to starting out,
Mhm.
and they're considering doing ads, would you suggest that they do ads if they don't have that dialed in yet, or figure it like do the ads and figure it as they go?
I would suggest getting it figured out before you invest money in paid ads. Otherwise, you're just going to be throwing your money away. The paid ads approach is good, can be super effective, but it's kind of a science in and of itself. So if you don't know what you're doing, you don't have a really firm grasp of it, wait, hold off until you get those skills under your belt, and then put the money there. So with like how do you create a marketing plan in the first place, obviously you got to know what tools you have available. And typically where I start my coaching partners is with the AAA tool that Fitness Revolution provides to all of our coaching partners to help them get organized in their minds before they go out in the world. So getting clear about kind of the superpowers in their business that they have to put to use. So
Yeah.
if they're really good at marketing, or if they're really good at writing, for example, if they're really good at design, then those are some skills that they can use to execute their marketing plan. Maybe they just have an expansive networking list. Cool, let's use that and go to town with your networking list. And then like clarifying the action steps that you're going to do to put your marketing plan out there. And with early stage business owners, we're just shooting for one activity in each of the three main marketing channels, right? So internal, online, and offline, at least one thing. Just keep it really simple and doable out of the gate. And then once you are solid in that, that's happening super consistently and generating some results, then we can increase the complexity as we go forward. But for the start, don't worry about taking on the world.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Because that just goes back to that whole idea of obviously having success too quickly isn't a good thing if you don't have
Right.
structure around what you're doing, and that's very much so I think when it comes to marketing. Like like you said, obviously like a new business starting out, looking at a seven-figure business, like their infrastructure is much different. Like they generally
Exactly.
would have more team members, more money, more brand recognition. I mean, so it's they have more bandwidth, and if you're trying to copy that, you're going to just stress yourself out to no
Hmm.
end. Because you don't have that infrastructure there. So even if it did happen to somehow work for you, you don't have the same infrastructure that that company has. So
Right.
it would just ruin you. Um, so I like that, like you start talking about like how you start outlining like the approach with your coaching partners that you work with. um could you take us a little bit more into that with how you uncover kind of like where they're at, and how do you start prescribing like kind of like, I know you focus on their strengths, but like how do you start like kind of like formulating an actual marketing plan? Because I think some people like think when I hear marketing they just think like, oh, I'll come up with a new promotion to run this month,
Hmm.
but no, it's actual strategy that like goes into
Right.
the future, and of like what your efforts go into. So like how do you, um I guess I start helping that person formulate that plan of like say like what a 6 month plan could look like or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So ideally, you have at least one kind of major promotion that you're featuring every quarter. So your marketing has a theme. So you're really clear about what you're asking people to opt into when you go out there and share about your business. If it's too general, it's not going to be a big enough hook to motivate people to get engaged and take that first step toward your business. So kind of working long range, that kind of the big picture, you're asking like 6 month plan, put those big quarterly promotions on the map, and then we can kind of reverse engineer it that way. It's making sure that we've got enough marketing time in advance of each of those promotions to build up to it to get enough momentum toward that.
Okay. So, yeah. So it's essentially it's understanding what like the big like the bigger picture goal is, and then making sure that you have things happening each month that are going to contribute to that goal, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, no, and I think that's. Do you find once you get your coaching partner on this path of like actually having strategy behind what they're doing each month, when it comes to their marketing, that they feel like a more sense of clarity behind what they're doing?
Yeah. Once they got the confidence, like they're clear about what they need to be doing on a consistent basis, you can kind of feel them relax, all right, into a groove. Because unfortunately, a lot of business owners are just winging it
Mm,
and bouncing from one thing to the next and hoping something sticks without really tracking it. And so they never really get solid data to make good decisions from.
mm,
And that's kind of the advantage that longer term, more advanced business owners have, is that they have a pile of data that they can reference to kind of forecast into the future and predict kind of trends. Like over a 12-month span, they've got a sense of where the lags in business typically come, where the surges happen. In my business, it was always in August. Like I knew
mm,
everybody's disappearing in August.
yeah.
And so I had to prepare for that.
Mm,
So, like, maximize the surge moments and look for opportunities that I'd been missing in August to make
mm.
sure that it wasn't such a dramatic dip at those times. So, longer term business owners can really draw from that data in a different way than when you're just starting out.
Yeah, and that's so crucial because like you said, like then you can actually, like you said, make decisions from facts, and not just feelings. Sometimes that can get us in
Right.
trouble, if we're caught up in the moment of something that's happening and overlooking the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And then actually, like the flip side of that, say a new company, a new fitness business just starting out doesn't have data. Would you, like, is it more about just kind of like committing to a process for at least a time period and then evaluating it afterwards?
Yeah, exactly. This is where a lot of business owners miss a beat because they get really excited, they put a plan in place, and then they they fail to execute it, uh, which is like the perfect plan makes no difference if you're not going to execute it and then track that. So they might be doing things when they think of it, but they're not doing it as consistently as we need to do to determine if it's working or not. So
Mm,
in Fitness Revolution, we recommend 97% completion of a plan in place so that we can have an accurate assessment of whether it's working or not, and then we can make adjustments as needed. So if you're
mm.
not tracking it, start. It's going to be a
Yeah.
difference maker for you.
Absolutely. And like what time frame would you usually recommend people to commit to something?
I would 2 months at the very minimum, 3 months like ideally, and
Mm,
then if it's time to pull the plug or shift gears, then we do it.
okay. Yeah, no, that's good because I think I don't know, maybe you might know more on this with the people that you've worked with, but I would say most people will probably jump ship too soon
Hmm.
before they like give it time to actually like start doing something.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you first start out, just like when you start a new fitness program, like nothing's changing, you're not getting the six pack, and then one day you start to notice a dramatic difference in your body. Same thing with marketing. Just toe the line until you see the shift start to happen. But if you're not going to commit to the like, eating your broccoli every day,
Mm.
you ain't gonna see the results.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Um, and maybe too, we can like help people with this perspective shift of how they're looking at this. Like people that are like that you're coming to you, the coaching partners that you're just starting to work with, what are some like the biggest mistakes that you see people with what they how they approached marketing in the past, and maybe like what was like kind of like their aha moment in that sense of like helping them shift their perspective of what marketing is and how they should be going about it.
Mhm. A lot of business owners I think have the mindset that they shouldn't need to go out there and market their business. That just
Mm,
because they're delivering a great product, people should appreciate them and find them, and it just should happen organically and naturally. It's just not how it works. Like you gotta go out there and be fearless and bold in sharing what you're up to get the results that you want. Um, and that there's a consideration in the back of a lot of fitness business owners' minds that it's too salesy and they don't want to
mm,
be like that icky car salesman going out there selling their wares. But this is how you make the difference that you want to make. And you got to speak boldly about it and give people the opportunity to change their life. That's all you're doing. Like, you're inviting them to dance, and if they say no, no skin off your back. It's just another person out there who knows what you're up to. And the more people that know about you, the better.
Mm. Yeah, no, that is very true. Uh, and it's funny because I always tell people who's like struggle with that type of mentality. Like, you look how many times, like, say, like these mega corporations like Coca-Cola, Apple, like, are like shoving ads down you like constantly, and like I don't think they're thinking twice whether you look at this too much or not. And like they want you to look at it too much.
Yeah.
uh, so it's same thing. It's like, yeah, I guess it's also, yeah, having that confidence and being like having that power, that pride of like, yeah, I've created something really good that's going to help people, and I want people to know about it.
Hmm.
um, so as we work towards wrapping up the conversation, is wondering if we can like just kind of leave people with maybe like some next step focuses, like maybe not actually action steps, but like what they should be focusing on next. Like, so maybe we can first like start out with that like level 1 to like level 2 business of like person who's just getting going. What would you say would be like the first thing that they should make sure they have established?
Yeah. Get clear about what your core offer is, your ideal client, what makes you different, so that you can speak powerfully about who you are and what you do. And then take a really good look at what resources you have to execute any marketing. So a budget, if there is one, um, if it's just you, or if you have a team, what strengths there are to optimize there, and what kind of time that you're able to devote to marketing. And then you can put a realistic plan in place.
Excellent. And then now, like I said, like someone who's been around, and maybe that 3 to 4 level business has been around maybe closer to 10 years. What would you say would be like their thing to focus on to fix what they have going on?
Um, with more advanced business owners, they can be a little more selective, right? In kind of targeting the clients that they really want to work with, hopefully. And so it's not overlooking the like what you care about, what you really are passionate about doing, so that you stay engaged and lit up about your business. It's easy to get disengaged as you get into more advanced stages, like been there, done that. What's next for me? So if you're not loving what you're doing, like, it's time to bring a fresh look to who you're delivering your service to. Is it the best that it could possibly be? And also take a good look at the strengths of your team members that you might not have really put to work for you yet. There could be some really hidden gold in your team that you could put in play.
Love that. And it's usually like the most simplest things that have the greatest impact when it comes to growing your business. So I love everything that you shared. I mean, I hope this was valuable to you guys, and more importantly, like maybe like cause you to rethink what you're doing and how you're going about things, because that's where change can happen. And we don't want to just keep doing what you're doing just for the sake of doing it, and not actually getting the result that you want. So that's the whole point of why we like do these trainings, to kind of hopefully snap you out of that, wake you up, and get you to have some critical thinking of like what you're actually doing, and is it actually in your best interest in moving your business where you want. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm also going to be sharing with you a link that you'll be able to access at the end of this video to a needs assessment. And basically what that is going to be able to, it's 10 questions, doesn't take you more than maybe 5 minutes to go through it. And it's going to basically evaluate the health, where you're at in your business, tell you where you're at, what area you should be focusing on. And that's what's going to also help you with creating your marketing plan. So everything that we just discussed will be able to be really put into play after you complete that needs assessment. And then we'll also be able to get over to you individualized resources based on the level that you're at, to make sure that you are moving forward. So I really encourage you to do that. Again, it doesn't take more than a couple of minutes, and it could really open your eyes and change some things for you in your business and where you're applying your efforts. So again, that link will be available at the end of the video. And Luke, thank you so much for taking your time to break that down for us today.
My pleasure.